We're going to start here in a second. We got some more people coming in. How's everyone feeling? You guys can take yourself off mute. We're just going to hang out.
Hey.
Hey.
Your audio is a little low, Ajit. I think it sounds like something's blocking your speaker, maybe. Ajit, you want to go ahead and try to talk again? Nope.
So you all may or may not meet our cats, depending on how lucky you are. We've
My
kind
big question is everyone wearing sweatpants today? Is that what everyone's got nice shirts on, but sweatpants down below?
I have jeggings on. I have jeggings.
There you go.
All right.
Well, I am in jeans. I'm in my regular uniform.
We're gonna give Ajit some time to dip out and dip back in. While he's doing that, I'll go ahead and just get us started a little bit. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Really Startups: How Has COVID Changed Early Stage Entrepreneurship? I have notes right here, so I'm being vulnerable and let you know that I may look down and look at them. My name is Michelai Graham. I'm the technically DC market editor, so I cover the entrepreneurship. There's a cat, D. I cover the entrepreneurship tech startup community here in the DC region, parts of Maryland, also Northern Virginia, as Amazon is moving in there as well. But today we'll be discussing basically how early stage entrepreneurship is changing. So to kick off, if you guys want to all take a chance, panelists, to introduce yourselves, tell us what region you're in and what you do for work.
Well, would you like me to start? Hi, everybody. In my video, I'm at the very top, so I don't know how that works for everybody else. But hi, my name is Matt Gillis. I'm the CEO of Clean.io. We're a Baltimore-based startup, and we protect enterprises and their end users from untrusted code execution. Quickly, that you may be familiar with when you're on your mobile phone and you're on a website, and all of a sudden the web page redirects to a page that says, "Congratulations, you won an Amazon gift card." That is considered untrusted code, and you're welcome. We stop that problem, so that's what we do. I'll throw it over to Sandeep, because he's next on the line from what I can see.
Well, perfect. Hey, I'm Sandeep Konam. I'm co-founder, CTO of Abridge AI Inc. So I don't know how many of you have experienced this thing, but as patients, when we engage in clinical conversations with doctors, oftentimes there is a lot of information being exchanged. And sometimes we're anxious, sometimes we're absent-minded and really sick more than anything. And we might not remember all the doctor's advice, recommendations, treatment plans, so on and so forth, when we really need it. So using Abridge, we can capture the details of our care by securely recording these clinical conversations happening across the care continuum from home to hospital, and stay on top of our health. And we are based out of Pittsburgh. D, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Sandeep. So hi, I'm Dipanwita. I go by D. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Sorcero. We are a Washington, D.C. based startup that has a language intelligence platform that serves life sciences and insurance companies. So primarily what we help our customers do is optimize and speed up a lot of the work that's driven by regulated content or medical science. So our end users are often doctors and engineers and so forth. Yeah, so that's us. Let me see who's next. Yossi.
Thank you. Hey, I'm Yossi Levi. I am co-founder and CEO of gettacar Com. What we do is we're e-commerce for used cars. So, many of us have had the dreadful car dealership experience when buying a car. And so we simplify the process, and we own the entire experience end to end. So you buy a car from us online and we deliver it to your door.
Hey, Ajit, I think you need to come off. You're muted right now.
So I'll pass it on to someone else.
Ajit, you're muted. I think you need to unmute. In the lower left-hand corner, there should be a microphone right there.
I am unmuted now.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, I am back to technology. I'm Ajit, George. I'm the founder of Second Chances Farm in Wilmington, Delaware. I am we are an indoor vertical farm, hydroponic farm that's at scale. And what makes us interesting and unusual, even by indoor vertical farms, is we only hire inside the farm returning citizens, people who have served their time and repaid their debt to society. So that's what we do.
Awesome. So in the name of technical difficulties, viewers, we know that some of you are mentioning that you can't see it in grid. If you're manually able to do that, there should be an option up in the right-hand corner to switch to grid view to see everyone at the same time. But if not, we're just going to keep this show going. So we're going to throw up a poll here, an audience poll. We're going to ask folks, if you lead, work at, or work with an early stage company, how has COVID-19 impacted company plans? If we want to get that poll up, and we'll talk about the results panels later on, but let's kick this off. So for all of you, you're in different stages of how this pandemic is affecting your companies. How did you know the world had changed? Was it the day you saw that social distancing order? Was it before that? What was that moment for you where you were like, wow, this is real and it's going to impact my company from here on out in a major way? Well, anyone can take it. Go ahead,
I'm happy to start it because I probably am the perfect canary in the mine. We started our farm, recruited our first cohort of 10 returning citizens on January 6th, set up the farm the first week in February, planted over 200,000 seeds to harvest on March 16th. Our first group of customers was high-end restaurants. We had pre-sold everything. Takes 6 weeks to grow. We were going to deliver on March 17th. We harvest on March 16th. We started the first harvest on March 16th in the morning. And at 3 o'clock that day, the governor of Delaware issued an order shutting down all restaurants at 8 o'clock that day. So we went from 100% pre-sold to 0 sales with a perishable product that we were harvesting. And so we had to figure out whether we shut down or pivot. And I'm happy to talk about the pivoting when the time is right. But that was the moment when I know my world ended, as I knew it at that point.
World ended. I'm like, anyone else want to speak to that?
So I can go next. I mean, for me personally, I think I was just traveling back from India sometime in early February, and I've already seen things change in airports and the screening and things like that. But for us, from a user standpoint, we've started receiving a lot of feedback in terms of how care has shifted completely from physical visits to online and telemedicine. So again, I think as Ajit mentioned, we've had to make a quick solution that can help patients thrive and kind of take care of their health in the current circumstances. So again, I can go into detail in terms of what that change has been for us as well.
Yeah. I can go next. So I actually remember the date really, really clearly. It was March 12th, and it was largely triggered because someone was visiting us in office, and we later found out that he had fever, and that was it. And we immediately sort of went on overnight. The entire team went remote. I think for us, from a business standpoint, it hasn't thankfully negatively impacted us. But what it did do is that it dramatically changed our go-to-market strategy around certain verticals that we immediately, sort of pushed for maybe 6-7 months down the line, verticals like supply chain that we were thinking about addressing straight away. It also really put a dampener on our, on our office offsite planning that we were doing. And that was really important because we are a somewhat distributed team. So in terms of team building, and we just hired a bunch of new people, that's made onboarding very, very interesting.
Yeah, hey, it's Matt. We started seeing, we run a global business. And so I've got customers in places like Asia and in Italy who were just slowing down, their processes. And that started kind of in early February. I would say that kind of gave us the early warning sign. Similarly to D, we had an offsite planned in February, and I had a bunch of folks that were traveling internationally, and we kind of just said, maybe we should just hit the pause button. There's no need to, we could do this virtually. We'll give it a try. And we did, and it worked. And I think that was kind of proof point number one that we can work virtually as a global team. I would say as a cyber company, we really started to see what I would call threats and attacks really start to pick up in the early March timeframe. And we've posted a bunch of data on our website at clean.io. You can go to our blog. There's a couple of blogs there about what we saw in March and then what we saw kind of persist through April. And so, yeah, it's been kind of, warning signs in a couple different places. And we've seen the impacts surge and, it's been interesting for our business. I think it's, unfortunately, it's kind of been okay and good for our business.
Definitely. I want to do 2 call outs here in the middle. If you guys can see Terry, he's doing a live graphic illustration of this. I'm always so fascinated. Also, we saw some of those poll results. They went away, but about 39% of you said this has changed in a good and bad way. So kind of neutral. And then right behind that was 22% saying it negatively has impacted you. So yeah, thinking about that, going into our next question, what has kept working? What has been challenging? Ajit, you mentioned some pivoting. So this is where you guys can also talk about pivots. D, you said for your business, it hasn't changed your business directly as much, but some other things are changing. So if you guys want to talk about challenges and what has kept working and what have you had to do? Have you had to return to basics?
Okay, so I will simply say that for us, we had never, ever planned as a business model, because we're a large production firm, to sell to individuals or retail in any shape or form. We were selling it to either grocery stores or to restaurants. So that was our marketplace. So we were harvesting on Monday the 16th when all of this happened, and the 17th we were delivering to restaurants, which we didn't do. So when you deliver to restaurants, you don't have to individually package stuff. You don't have to, it's a bulk packaging. And so we obviously didn't have that marketplace. So we first had to figure out what do we do with all this produce and what do we do going forward, because I had a group of 10 returning citizens that were counting on me to keep them working. And so we ended up launching, just as a lark, a farm to table home delivery program that was open to 2 counties in Pennsylvania and 1 county in Delaware. We didn't have any method or program for delivery because we never had thought about it. And we also didn't have packaging. But we put it up. First thing was marketing. I figured if there's customers, we'll find a way to solve it. So we put it up on the website. We emailed everybody on our list. We had a fairly large following. Much to our surprise, there was an incredible reaction, positive reaction. And so then the next challenge was packaging it, because people did not know what bok choy was. So we had to put labels on things as opposed to restaurants and chefs that would know what bok choy was. And then we had to figure out how to deliver it. So over the course of the next 4 weeks, we ended up selling out everything we produced, and we have a large clientele that is home delivery, that some of them have gone through their 2nd renewal now. We are into our 8th week of harvest today, and tomorrow is our delivery. We have learned more about delivering and being in the retail side and what it means to be individual retail. And we might have just found a new business model for this that we never anticipated. And the unintentional consequence of this was that the people who are buying it have turned out to be a fan club, and many of them want to visit us and potentially invest in us when it's open. That is something I had never thought, because we have a captive audience that really, most of it like it. 86%, we did a survey of them, loved our product and thought we were superior. And so that was my pivoting story. So
thank you. I love that.
Thank you.
So for us, it was pretty interesting, because when we had a really big demand shock right as things started. So we could kind of tell, we're a consumer business. So, we could kind of tell it was continuing to demand was continuing to lower. Although what was interesting is that after, like say in the last couple of weeks, we were actually shut down for a month because of the government. But in the last couple of weeks, we've completely shifted our marketing from, our value proposition was always like, hey, you should buy a car online because, for many reasons, but it's just so much easier. And this is, the preferred method. And now it's like, hey, you kind of have to buy a car online. People need transportation. People are, going to be hailing rides less. And, we don't know kind of the long-term impact. Although now it's like, hey, we're the superior way to buy a car online. We like to say, like, would you order Chinese food from an Italian restaurant? So no, right? So like we specialize in this. So it's been it's been pretty interesting to see kind of consumer reaction and kind of us in this new world, how we function in it.
I can go next. So as I alluded to in the introduction, for us, it's been really about people and hiring, and still continue to build a really strong culture with a lot of new people coming on board. So right before COVID really hit, we had strategically decided that we were going to center all of our US hiring in the DC area. And that was really important because we wanted everyone in the US to be in the same office. So that was one kind of hiring strategy. As soon as COVID hit, we started scanning all the layoff lists, and we changed our hiring strategy from just doing sort of open, postings on Indeed or LinkedIn or wherever, and focused purely on hiring off of the layoff lists. And one of the big decisions we're trying to take is, does that mean we just hire from anywhere in the US? Does it not any longer matter where a person is? We're also dealing with the fact that there is severe Zoom exhaustion, and folks on the team are feeling the strain of jumping from one video call to another for 8 straight hours of calls. So how do you manage that exhaustion as well? So for me, I'm spending a lot of my time thinking about that, and that's what we're working through, is how do we plan for being remote and growing and hiring for at least the rest of 2020. And so that's been an incredible amount of thinking around team building online, which for a distributed technology company is proving to be much more nuanced and interesting than I thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I found it super interesting. Like, as entrepreneurs, we are challenged every day to, learn new muscles that we didn't think we had or didn't think we would know or that we would need. For me, balancing that home life and that work life, I think, like, this is outside of the business. Like, I've got 3 kids that are getting homeschooled on video and Zoom every day. And so balancing that environment, I think, has been really challenging. As you can see, I'm actually in the office today.
I was just going to comment on the backdrop. I love the backdrop, the wall right there.
That's real. That's real.
That's great.
But I think one of the things that we did in the early days, because when we were reading the news and seeing what was happening out in the outside world, like outside of the United States, we were really preparing for the worst. And obviously it's been bad and it's been challenging. But never did I think that we'd be like developing a disaster recovery plan as a very small startup, as to like, hey, what happens if I'm sick and I'm in the hospital and I'm on a ventilator? Like, who has the keys? And so I think that, like, we went through a lot of doomsday type scenarios with our team, just to make sure that we knew, who was in charge and who was the backup and who was the backup to the backup. And so I think that was a real interesting process. And then just on a demand strategy side, we really had to take a step back and really, I would say, have an empathetic lens as to how we were going to market, and how can we be of service to our customers and make sure that they do not experience disruption. And then also on a bringing in new customers, how do we lean in and how do we adapt and just not be tone deaf in this environment, right? Because I think there's a lot of folks that are struggling revenue wise, and it's like, how can we lean in and help? I think that's kind of the real thing that we've tried to do to differentiate.
Definitely.
Yeah, for us, I think being a healthcare company, what this pandemic has exposed is kind of like the shortages, whether it is like in hospitals, like the doctors, but more importantly, patients are more anxious than ever before, right? So for us being this company where we wanted to help patients always stay on top of their health, we've noticed that most of these encounters, clinical visits, are online right now, when like they have to do this like telemedicine play. So we've seen a lot of patients kind of report that to us, and we've been like observing the space for a while now. So it took us like a week or two to quickly spin up a telephone-based solution where doctors can use an Abridge-enabled phone number to reach out to patients and have the care conversation, so that patients are like more present during the conversations, because they can always stay confident that they can refer back to the recordings all the time. And we have a machine learning pipeline that generates those summaries for them. So in terms of how we've been able to shift very quickly from like purely being this app where patients use in the clinical visits in the office, to something where patients can use it like during phone calls and things like that, I think that's been really impactful. But more than anything, we've also seen government take very quick steps in terms of enabling and relaxing privacy policies when it comes to telemedicine visits. and actually like enabling some billing practices where doctors can get paid at the same level as video and in-office visits. So some of those things acted as tailwinds, and we acted really fast to ensure that we capture the opportunity and help patients kind of navigate this crisis. And I think Satya Nadella has put it rightly when he said that Microsoft has seen like 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months, but for healthcare, it's been more like 10 years worth of transformation in a month. So, I mean, it's been like really kind of like, I think, mixed feelings being at the center of that journey, but really pleasant to have helped patients navigate this at the end of the day.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. Pivoting a little bit, how did you first express to your team that your world was changing? Dee, you said you remember the exact day and moment that this all kind of happened. But not only just talking about how you first expressed it, how was it received by your team members from that point? Anyone can go ahead and take the reins and share. And if you weren't the one who delivered that message, what did it feel like to receive it?
Well, I would say for me, the hardest part was I had a whole bunch of people, 10 returning citizens and 5 members of my leadership team, sort of looking for me to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And I'm not a magician, and I haven't ever, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you always pull rabbits out of the hat, but you never have to do it within 24 hours or your entire production goes out of stuff. And what I told them is I have no idea on Monday the 16th what was going to happen, but I was going to do everything in my power not to fail. That I would put everything I knew to make it work, and that we'll come back in tomorrow, we'll package like we have customers, and we are going to find a way to make it happen. What they wanted was reassurance that I wasn't bailing out of the ship or that I had given hope. It put a lot of stress on me because I couldn't share how anxious I was, but they were looking at my face for hope. And I would say for me, it is all about resilience and hope, surviving this is, and when you have a team, and particularly in my case, returning citizens who have experienced a lot of hardships in prisons, they really wanted to not feel like they were once again, found to be victims of some other crisis that they didn't have it. So it was well received, but I think it put an incredible energy focus on me to give energy. So they watch my mood and attention every single day.
It's been business as usual for us. That's all I would say. Like, I mean, it's just people are doing it in different locations. We actually just moved into this location on February the 1st. I remember that day, Dee. And yeah, we were across the harbor in Baltimore here in a Spaces location, and we were sardined into a tiny room with 10 people, and we finally now have 4,000 square feet here in Baltimore. And like 3 weeks later, everyone's working from home. So I think the team is excited to get back to this because this is where we've created, team and culture and presence and that sort of stuff. But we're doing what everybody else is doing, the virtual happy hours, and trying to do as much of this and FaceTime and just make sure that you stay connected and communicate, like just over communicate so that you're uber transparent. I think transparency builds trust and kind of hopefully eliminates the fear, uncertainty, and doubt of these situations, and hopefully keeps everybody from a mental health perspective not going crazy by not seeing and shaking hands and all that sort of stuff that you would normally do.
Yeah, so sort of just building on what Matt just said, we were expanding our team, so we were just starting to look at real estate. Let me just say that got put on pause. So we had outlined a new office in the summer and maybe May or June and so on and so forth. That got put on pause. But we did a bunch of really tactical things. So first and foremost, an early stage startup is risky at any time of the year, but it's particularly risky now. So the first thing was to reassure the existing team on the financial stability of the company, and that we had runway not for 1 but 2, and just really explaining that nothing on the financial side for them was going to change because this was not going to be a great time for them to jump ship anyway. That was one. Number 2 is instituting. We already have a fairly friendly leave and family care policy, but really doubling down on that. So sort of insisting that everybody take between 1 and 7 days off in preparation that didn't count towards their PTO, but allowed them time to quote unquote prepare whatever preparation meant for them. Some of our team members have, children, differently able children. So a different kind of care, different working hours. So working with each individual on the team to make sure that the working hour structure for them works with childcare, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a lot of work that went in there. for a full 2 weeks while our visitor was in recovery and we weren't sure if it was COVID or not, I sent a daily health bulletin at the same time every single day, sort of saying, okay, this is the single source of truth. So it was a bulletin on his health, but also a bulletin on all of our health. So again, to Matt's point about succession planning at an early stage startup, some of us, including myself, had met with him. So making sure that the team knew that we were in good health was also important. So we did a lot of that. And then mental health days. Suddenly mental health, which was a little more subtle, became a big topic of conversation. We opened up a full Friday so the entire team could just vent and voice everything that they were worried about. So creating a very safe, inclusive, non-trite space to talk about the state of your sanity or lack thereof was really helpful. So those are the very practical things we did.
Definitely. I'm gonna cut in right here because you both, Dee and Matt, talked about transparency. Do you guys think is there such thing as too much transparency during such a chaotic time? You just talked about an entire health bulletin, which I think is amazing. Do you guys think there's a such thing as too much transparency, or that's not even a thing?
So I'll say that what Matt and Dee said, pretty much sums up what we did. Pretty much carbon copy. We have a tech office overseas. We just leased a space in early February. We were, our overseas team was in a co-working space prior to that. And also, with being over communicative, that's exactly what we did. We doubled up our, our company all hands meetings. We did a lot of things so that people could, just tell them as much as we can. But I think that to your question about transparency, it's okay to not know, to not have answers. People seem to, especially in the beginning, like in March, there was a peak fear, and people just wanted to hear, from leadership, like what is going on. And, you simply don't always have the answers, and a lot of times you don't, but as long as you just, stay communicative, we were very transparent with every step of the process. And, it seemed like just a big chunk of it was really, even after the first couple of weeks of shelter in place, was just morale. We're a company that was completely shut down. So it's really tough because you want everyone to stay motivated. And so the best way is just really transparency and explaining any developments possible that, getting us one step closer to running the business again. So that in hindsight, it was very successful. So.
Yeah, I think just echoing what Yossi mentioned, transparency for any company is important, but I think companies of our stage, early stage companies, it is very important to build, establish, and deepen trust. And more than anything, I think it boosts the team morale, which is very important during times like this, because we're all in this together. And if you want to build this company together, I think we need to overcome it and be transparent. So I think adopting a very flat hierarchy and always exchanging important things and being connected all the time really helped us overcome the communication barrier as well, because especially being remote, I think that pops up all the time. Are the things happening behind behind the curtain, is everyone not being exposed to the important things? So always organizing meetings, ensuring that we sync up every single day has been crucial too.
Awesome. So how are you guys, this is just a one-off question, but how are you guys staying connected and transparent with your teams? Is it Slack, Google Hangouts, Zoom? I have some people I take meetings with that they're hard Google Hangout users, won't use Zoom, and vice versa. Are you using something different? Those are the three big apps I've seen getting a lot of usage right now. So if you guys are doing something different.
Yeah, sure. I actually love to speak to that because we did end up doing something different. Initially, some of our customers, who are very regulated, were uncomfortable with some of the security issues that were popping up with Zoom. So their legal team wouldn't sign off on us using Zoom. We're big fans of open source. So we went and set up Jitsi. And Jitsi is not only end-to-end encryption, it's open source software. So we now use Jitsi for all of our internal stand-ups, which is every morning. We still have a big chunk of our external meetings on Zoom, but internally we're slowly moving over to Jitsi and sort of configuring that more and more to work for us. Again, we use Slack, we use Zoom primarily, and we're on G Suite. We don't really do Hangouts. The rest of us is customer driven. You want to do a Hangout, you want to send a Skype they're the boss of us sometimes, so they deal with that. But from our own internal, it's now on Jitsi, and we're really, really enjoying using it.
Awesome. Anyone else?
We were deemed an essential business because we are producing food. So we have daily, everybody's here. So I am one of the few people that didn't get to watch any Netflix or any movies, work 7 days a week. I haven't been bored at home. In fact, I haven't been home less than I ever have been. So we start every morning with a briefing meeting with everybody so that we can allay concerns, and we end the day with a very short briefing. So we are believe it or not, we see everybody physically. We get to see them physically. Somewhat dangerous. We wear masks, but we are, of course, being in the food safety business. There's a lot of food safety issues we address with USDA and FDA. But for us, it's very, very different to be in place. So.
Awesome. All right. We have a question here. Oh, this is Jim would like to share a document. Jim, we can get that figured out after the panel for sure. Thank you. That's awesome. All right, moving on. So it's been said that nobody kept product market fit when COVID hit. Have you had to go back to basics, or has your business changed as a whole? Ajit, you kind of touched on this already, how your business is more so growing with a fan base now.
Well, we have changed. We have added. I think this week we are going to make a final decision if this is a permanent change, because we've gone through 2 cycles of renewals. Because initially I didn't think we would ever want to do home delivery, so I didn't want to promise more than 4 weeks of home delivery. So I charged people for 4 weeks of home delivery up front, thinking I would never have to ask them for renewal. People are now asking, can I put them on automatic renewal? Can they sign up for a year? None of which I anticipated or wanted. So we are now going to the place where we are seriously setting up, okay, if this is going to be a real operational model, we cannot run this the informal way we did it, and how do we do it right? So how do we package food to be delivered home in the summer is different from in school, because we leave, it's no contact delivery. So if you leave it outside, lettuce is going to get warm. So we're thinking through the challenges of it, but I think we would have a riot, and particularly we would lose some badwill from people who might be potential investors if we suddenly said we're not going to do it. So we are dedicating essentially at the thought between now and the end of May to really to create a permanent new outlet, and then that will be a whole new. It'll be one part of our business, but it'll be an interesting part of business, and one that I never intended. But we are definitely pivoting to making our new operation, this part of our marketplace, permanent.
Awesome. Anyone else want to speak to that?
Sure. So for us, it's sort of it's done 2 things. One is, bird in hand, worth 2 in the bush, which means that we are doubling down on expanding within our current customers instead of just constantly trying to get the next new customer. We have relationships that we've built over a couple of months, in the averaging 6-month odd sales cycle, and we're doubling down on that instead of just investing heavily in getting new leads. So that's been different. So our emphasis is much more on customer success and technical account management than it has been on just sales. So that's one. I think the second part which has happened is that we were really starting to travel a lot to Europe, where a lot of our customer base is moving to or is. And in the absence of that being a possibility, we're again we're going back to our pipeline and digging up customers who have been particularly impacted by COVID and could really use our software right now. So we've kind of gone back to them and said, hey, if there's anything we can support you with, now is a good time to let us know. So, and that's elicited some really, really great results. And we've been able to support some really key industries and key players by just sort of helping them through a particular time, even if they may have forgotten about us. So that's been, and last but certainly not the least, we're doing the slow down to go fast approach, which is, across the team, the agreement is we have 60 days to get our house in order. So all of the things that we haven't been doing because we were moving really fast, this is the time to do it. So the plans and the structuring, so any sort of slowness on the customer end is an opportunity for us to get our house in order. So this is sort of how we've dealt with it so far.
Definitely. I'm going to pivot a little bit. We have some questions from attendees. First one is actually for you, Terry. I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this. I see that you're on mute, but someone is wondering what you're using to make this infographic.
I am using an iPad Pro, 12.9 inches.
And are you drawing this like from scratch in like Illustrator or
No,
something?
I'm actually using a program called Procreate, which is here, I can show my face. Which is kind of the standard drawing program that a lot of people. It's not standard, but it's very commonly used on an iPad, yeah, and an Apple Pencil.
Awesome. I'm very intrigued. I've been watching you the entire time. So thank you, Terry. Can't wait to see the finished product. All right, we have another question from Miriam Kelly. Has anyone found that they are undercapitalized under the current situation versus what was originally budgeted for? This looks like a funding, financial, venture capital question. Anyone?
I mean, I can answer. I think for us, we don't really know what the impacts will be from a financial perspective, right? So we have a plan. We've got an operating plan. We hit our Q1 number. We have increased demand for our products. But I think what we're seeing is that some of our customers have actually felt impact, right? So many of our customers are big websites that rely on advertising. And as you can imagine, many advertisers have taken a little bit of a step back in this environment because they can't drive people to a retail location to spend money. So I think for us, it's a wait and see. And I think, I think we'll just be cautious and make our investments accordingly. I think that's our plan. There's a lot we don't know yet about what the longer term impacts are going to be from COVID. So we're just being cautious.
We were anticipating going for another round of investing, and we've been talking with investors for the month of March because we wanted to show our first harvest and show a sort of proof that we can actually deliver in an indoor vertical farm at scale. And so all of those investors said, it's congratulations on your first harvest, great job pivoting. We'll talk to you later when we understand what's going on. So we are managing to skate along, which is fine, but our ability to expand, because we have a 47,500 square foot building that we wanted to expand to our next portion of that building, is definitely delayed because I think investors have no idea what the world looks like. All the good news is that this pandemic showed that there was a real disruption in the food world and the supply chain, and buying locally, buying stuff that was not touched by human hand and that is chemical free. So what I'm hoping is when we come out of it in June or July, some of the investors will realize that we have a marketplace that might actually be proven to be an important vital link to solving when there is a pandemic or a major crisis. So that's what our hope is, but you never know. I think there's definitely a pullback on investors. People are hoarding cash and waiting to see, frankly, where they should invest if anytime soon. So, but we're surviving, and we were hoping to expand rather than survive. So,
yeah. Definitely. All right. I'm going to actually move on to the next question. After the Great Recession, we actually saw a decline in entrepreneurship. Do you guys predict that same decline will happen post-pandemic, or do you see something different happening? This is a different time.
So I think it's completely. I think it's actually a great catalyst for like any real entrepreneurs, anyone that truly wants to start a business, because we had like this period of just so much demand, and everything, a lot of things got so efficient, and suddenly everything got shook up in a month, and consumer demand just started shifting to different things. And so I think it's almost like what a true entrepreneur has been waiting for in a way, where there's all these new opportunities that it's not necessarily a free-for-all, but there's just a lot more opportunities than you would possibly have maybe a couple months back, when we had these 10 years of just an expansion economy where just demand completely exceeded supply in many different areas. So I think it's a great opportunity for people that want to start companies. Funding might be tricky. It definitely hasn't dried up. I'm not a VC, but it really depends on what. This is not like a recession by any means. You have companies that are excelling like never before. So it comes down to, the person, the company. And yeah, ultimately, I think it's a great opportunity.
I couldn't agree more. I think there's always going to be great ideas. And as you kind of suggested, there's a lot of capital and they're looking to invest in entrepreneurs. My last experience prior to here was with a startup in Baltimore called Millennial Media. We were founded in 2006. If anybody remembers 2008 and 2009, those were challenging times. And our company went public on the New York Stock Exchange in 2012. So I think there's always going to be great ideas, and you just got to be focused and heads down and execute well.
Definitely.
The one other thing that has become pretty obvious is that in a very consumer-driven, high-demand economy, there were lots of very interesting, cool things that were coming to market. And I think that's changing a lot. We're very easily able to distill between needs and wants. So, the entrepreneurs who are able to really zero in on what that unchanging need is and build companies around that will really do well. I was also reading a very interesting blog post that some of the biggest companies today were built around the recession and grew around the recession and did their best work around the recession. And so, yeah, I still feel incredibly hopeful about entrepreneurs who will zero in on the unchanging wants and build companies around that.
Definitely.
I think moreover, unlike 2001 and 2009, this pandemic has hit like sectors like travel, hospitality extremely hard. But other sectors like remote companies are, I think, like blooming, like Zoom and Discord, and they've like really gone up. So I think there is definitely a lot of opportunity in being able to like find really niche spaces where we can like really grow big. And I was just checking news this morning, and even yesterday there were like 20 new investments made into startups. So, I mean, I don't think this is stopping anytime soon.
Definitely. All right. I'm going to actually skip to our last question. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes. But I want to hear from everyone on this question. When we check back in with you in a year, where can you hope your company to be? Anyone can go first. Ajit, you look like you want to talk.
My hope, my promise to my returning citizens is that we will have at least 2 farms, and my first hemp farm, which I'm a licensed hemp grower, will be fully blooming and growing, and that we are a waiting list of people wanting to come work for us to create a whole new crop of compassionate capitalists, which is what we try to do with this, folks. So is to look back and say, you remember that day on March 16th when we had all that harvest and we had no idea what we were going to do? We got back our customer base, and more importantly, we have survived, thrived, and grew. I am being bullish because that's the only choice I have. I don't think there's any other choice. I am sort of determined to prove that if I survive through this, then I can survive through anything. So it is sort of like a warrior attitude that I'm having. I'm a veteran of this. So, and I'm proving that if I'm good enough to make it through this, I should be good enough to make it through through a decent economic cycle. So we hope to have multiple farms, Philadelphia here, large scale, and hire a lot of people who are returning citizens. So,
yeah. For us, I think we measure our success based on how helpful we've been to patients. So I think now is the real test for us as a company as we see these cases still going up. So I'm hoping that we emerge out of this situation having helped a lot of patients navigate the crisis, and hoping we've helped a lot of patients stay on top of their health.
Yeah, for me, we raised money a year ago. So a year from now, I hope we've raised quite a bit more money. I would love to see us with a substantial number on the balance sheet so that we can fund that next wave of growth for us. We've had an incredible amount of success in the last year and a half, and I think I kind of see this in chunks of time. So I think it'll also be the new normal. Like, we don't know what the normal that we experienced prior to 8 weeks ago. Who knows what that new normal is going to be going forward? And so I think it's just figuring out how to cope with the new normal. And but hopefully we're back in this office a year from now
with that cool wall. I hope so.
Yeah, exactly.
I can go next. So in about a year, so we have I expect to have gone, so we're in year 3 of our life cycle as a company. We just turned 2 in April, so still very, very young. So we expect to have cross product market fit and scaling really by the end of next year. That's what I expect. That's what our model tells us, and showing our team is really capable of measured, intelligent experimentation around this time to keep innovating. So that's what I hope to come back with.
So February was our best month ever. So it kind of sucked going into March.
Oh.
We were like, on top of the world. But like, like to Matt's point, like we also, we raised some money in the end of the year. So, like we're thankful that we're pretty well capitalized, and in the next year, we just hope we can kind of get back on that trajectory. Kind of get past all of this, and hopefully just keep the growth growing.
Awesome. Well, wow, you guys are right on time. I want to thank you all so much for joining and chatting with me. I want to give a shout out to Terry for the live graphic that I'm so excited to see. Also want to give a shout out to my team behind the scenes running the day, especially Katrina and Vincent hosting. It looks a lot harder than I think I could be doing right now, managing this many people. So shout out to the Technically Media team. Shout out to all of you. We are going to head out in our next session at 1 p.m. We'll be talking about what now for corporate innovation. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks.
As well.
Thank you.